Hello, Nico. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Max. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah, it was an interesting way of getting here because usually I have someone that I follow along for a while, and then eventually I'm okay. I can talk to this person, and with you was just like an energetic kind of thing. I think it was more of a quick decision. I said, okay, maybe he's gonna wanna have some good conversation, and here we are, just a couple weeks later, not even I think, which is very nice. But where are you from, man? Are you South American, I assume? Colombian or something like that, right?
Yeah, born and raised in Colombia.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that makes sense with the work you do. And yeah, it's a beautiful country. I was there 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, for quite a while, actually. And yeah, but how's your connection still, like, to your home country? Do you go back all the time, like, for work? Like, what's your life look like these days?
Yeah, so right now I'm in Toronto. I've been here for the majority of the last 15 years. That being said, I'm moving back to Colombia around October. That's the plan. I find that in my case and that of many people that I know, when we start healing, by healing, I mean just accepting all parts of ourselves, not running away from our past, our shadows, our wounds, our history. When we start loving ourselves, my case, when I started really accepting all of who I am, with the pain that came, and also the gifts that brought, I stopped judging as my country of birth as much as I used to. Because before I thought, Colombia is this corrupt country where there's a lot of street crime, and I had so many judgments about it. And I thought, the real life, the real world is North America, is the Western world, is places where there's more safety, um, bigger economy and whatnot. And yeah, I found that every country is rich in its own way, and I feel very called to my country of origin because of in part the spiritual traditions that remain alive through indigenous people, but also realizing that a good life is not necessarily a modern one, and that there's a lot that I feel for me, uh, that I can get and experience, by being in nature over just being here in a condo downtown in a big city.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when I was down there, it was very apparent that the U.S. is the place to be. Like, it's very much like on this pedestal. Everyone loves the American products, even though there's a massive import tax on it. But um, I always had that feeling. Any product that was from up there was welcomed, with open arms. And I mean, I grew up in Germany, and it was the same.
Hmm.
It's very much the imperial kind of way of living, right? Like, they know what they're doing. But yes, I agree on the part with going home. I did the same. I moved to Croatia a couple years ago during this COVID experience, and now I'm here for a couple years, and I try to connect with the roots of my mother. And yeah, it's not easy, right? Like, especially if when you live all over the world. Like, I'm not on a small island now, and it's not the easiest to connect with the people here. But I'm trying really hard. But yeah, I guess there's only so much I can do. So, like, I'm accepting it, and let's see where it takes me. But
Hmm.
where do you want to go when you move down there? Do you want to go, like, to the south and to the jungle, or what's a?
No, there's a region called Pereira.
Mhm.
It's near the coffee regions. It's what Medellin used to be 15, 20 years ago. So it's lush nature,
Yeah, no, it's, yeah, beautiful.
spring, summer weather all year round, beautiful people, still
Yeah,
safe. It has not been destroyed by sex tourism or a lot of the gentrification that can come with beautiful cities that are very accessible and affordable, and then with beautiful women. So a lot of foreigners come, and digital nomads, and that brings good things. It also brings some flavor of chaos and destruction. So this is still pretty much like a local town. But yeah, good nature, fertile soil, good weather, family.
Yeah,
My family is there, so that's it.
amazing, amazing. Yeah, my actually it's the only meaningful relationship I had before this one with my wife. I would say was with a Colombian girl. She was actually also her family was from Medellin as well, and uh, Paisa. So so I kind of I came in there. I had that girlfriend, so I wasn't like that typical tourist, right? Like I was already in the family. I was shown around. We spent a lot of time in Bogota as well, and it was just a different experience, I guess, when you're not really a tourist in a sense, right? And it just learned so much back then. Also, probably had my first real line of cocaine I've seen, which changed my life. But that's a whole different topic. But how's your how's your work going to impact your daily life, you think? Because you do work with ayahuasca, right? And you do work with humans, and I've also tried some plant medicine, but I feel like it's getting too much with a lot of you know like these people doing it out there, and it's just becoming that sport kind of, right? And I think you would agree that not everyone's supposed to do it, and maybe I don't know where you want to start with this topic, but let's I'd love to talk about it a bit with you because you're super experienced, I assume. And like, what is ayahuasca to you, first of all?
To me, is one of my main teachers. That's in a short form. It's a bridge towards remembering who I am, and especially who I am not.
Mm,
It's pure light, which sounds a lot fancier than the experience, which is just creates so much contrast. So I often find my humanity deeply contrasted, and especially the ways in which I may judge it or act out of integrity. So for me, it's like it's like it's a spiritual mother and father in one, that knows me better than I know myself and guides me according to that. And sometimes that requires deep love and bliss, and sometimes that requires chaos and ceremonies that feel like torture and that make me question, why am I even doing this? But on the other side of that, I realized that the part of me that was resisting the process was just a very rigid part of my identity, or of my ego, or of my attachment, of my vices. So ayahuasca, across different traditions, there's always been the guru, and guru it translates to the dispeller of darkness. So basically, a being so connected to light, to the void, to the emptiness, to the source of creation, that just being in his or her presence it will be inevitable for our own darkness not to fall off, right? Like being close to a burning fireball, high voltage, so near impossible to hold on to your darkness next to one of these beings. So in, let's say, in the Eastern traditions, it was more a lineage and a human that did the work, did the sadhana to make themselves available for that to flow through them, and for that to touch their disciples. Now, I find that every culture had their own way of connecting to this, and the guru is not a person; it's an energy. Refer to it as God, or the bridge towards God. Some people find that in the Bible. Some people find it in Jesus. Some people get a glimpse of that in a cold plunge, doing some breath work. I believe that the indigenous shamans found it by mixing a couple of plants. They found a being of light, an expression of it, which is the Jahe, the ayahuasca spirit, and that became their their teacher, their bridge into oneness. So for me, the medicine is what the catalyst for spiritual awakening, and that's a lot of words, but transformation, just getting my shit together, getting my life in order, turning things around from a very dark place to something that I'm proud of and that I live with enjoy and appreciation of.
Beautiful. Do you think you would have gotten to this place without the experience, the first one?
Yes. How soon and whether in this lifetime, that's a different question.
Yeah.
Anyways, we are like, the flow of life is such that evolution is a given.
Yeah.
We put the stake into the wheel of that evolution, and that's what we suffer. It's going to happen, whether it takes us a few nights of torment and hell through a strong psychedelic, whether it takes us a few decades of making the same mistakes until we get tired of our own shit, whether it takes us multiple years of therapy, self-development, reading books, watching sunsets, and like trying to figure it out, or where it takes multiple lifetimes until we do the same thing and we realize at one point, fuck, I think this is getting old and boring. Well, it will happen anyways, because that's, the all the water that falls down the mountain ends up in the ocean at one point or another. It's just, whether it goes straight through the river or whether it seeps through the earth and takes millions of years, it's going to arrive to the same place. So yes, I would have gotten to the same place. I am certain that ayahuasca speeds up certain processes, which is not a reason to do. It's not the reason to do it. It's like, for example, a lot of us, because of childhood trauma or whatever situation, we were forced to mature very young, to take a lot of responsibilities, to deal with a lot of pain, grief, chaos, drama, loss at a very young age. So very often, sometimes you meet people that they're teenagers, but like they're wise as a 30-plus-year-old because they've dealt with so much in their life. Now, I think we can all agree that the wiser we are, the younger, the wiser we are while we're younger, the better decisions we're going to make, and the more that's going to compound into a life that it's worth living and that is enjoyable. But the price that we pay is steep. Like if you ask that child whether they will want to go through that again or not, probably like, fuck no. It's anytime that you speed up a process of nature, you get stretch marks. So if you're not flexible enough, it can be very destructive. So I there was also a lesson that came to me during ayahuasca, because when I started drinking and I thought, fuck, this is destroying my bullshit in a fast pace, and my life is, and not only the psychedelic trip, but outside of that, my life was changing. So it was not a weekend high, but I would come back and I'm a different person. I'm creating different things. I'm connecting to different people. A different version of life is becoming available. So I thought, the more I drink this, the better life gets, which is really not how it goes. And pretty soon I found out that it was too much insight without embodiment, without grounding. It'll fry you. More than that the speed at which my life was changing was like, I couldn't handle it. It was way too much. Things were falling off way too soon, and the medicine itself told me like, hey, like, you can get stronger doing training for a decade, doing 3 times a week reps at the gym. You want to get as strong in what would have taken you 10 years. You want to do it in 1 year. You're likely to injure yourself if you don't know what you're doing, first and foremost, if you ever arrive there. But above all, you're going to put your body through a lot, and your whole life should probably be centered around recovery, preparation, optimization, like so many things for you not to break in doing that. and basically told me like, hey, you're starting to break. Your life is not designed around this. Like shamans, like if you live in the jungle, you don't have a family. If that deep communion with nature, with those forces of nature, is what you're here for, then you devote yourself to it, which is, fuck it. I give up my whole life. I throw myself into it, and I allow for the shamans to guide me. And, you go insane for a few months, and then you come out of that with a deeper connection to yourself, to God, to life, and your ability to serve others. But you cannot do that while still keeping a city life or a normal job, or like being like a, how they call it in the yoga, like a household. Anyways, yeah,
The couple.
uh-huh.
Yeah. Like, what's your take on the aura? Do you feel like from my experience, with whichever psychedelic I work with, like I also had to work with energy healers afterwards because like my aura, was leaking in a sense. Do you feel like that's something that happens, often? Do you feel that, it's something that is forgotten often? Because I think that plays into this whole integration kind of period, right? Because if you have these intervals that are too close to each other, you're just hurting yourself, like you just said. The stretch marks, they become too big, right? And I don't think people really understand what that means on that level, because it's too big to grasp, right? But like,
Mm.
do you think about that? And do you think that should be part of integration to work on, closing everything up back up and properly back up before, indulging in the next?
For sure. So at our retreat in Colombia, we wrap up the process with a sweat lodge, with a cura. That's how it's called, the shaman. Like that's a cleansing and a wrap up of the process for everybody, and that's the main intention, is to close channels, kind of whatever spirits, energies, whatever things do not belong, for things to go back to their original place. And it's like you threw a party, then after that's like you organize the chairs, you clean up the counters, you turn the lights off, and then everybody goes home with the enjoyment, the lessons, the insights, the change, whatever. But not like there's nothing lingering. So we do that because of that reason. Because otherwise, sometimes when that's not done, or when it's not done properly, like ayahuasca can open up so many things. That's not a problem. Like being extra sensitive is not a problem. The problem is if you're too sensitive and you lack the stability of mind to handle that, or if you're not grounded enough, then it becomes a problem. There's a lot of people that call themselves empaths, and which is different from having empathy. I think empathy we should all aim for is just being attuned to our collective human experience. But a lot of people that say like, "Oh, I'm an empath," very often I've heard of it in the context of being victims of their environment, having a very low ability to self-regulate. They're not sovereign over their energetic field. They're taking, it's like everywhere. For me, that's it's like going to a supermarket and saying, everything I see I need to put into my mouth. That's who I am. But emotionally, I walk around a group of people, and somebody's angry, I feel it. Somebody's anxious, I take it upon myself. It's like, well, do you also just dig your fingers in whatever you find at the supermarket and just chug it? Like, no. Why? Because you have boundaries, because you have discernment. um, the problem is not feeling strongly. The problem is not knowing how to discern. The problem is not being not having agency over, what. There are times if I'm out in nature, or if I'm with my wife, or if I am speaking to an audience, then maybe I can open up energetically to abide in that state of oneness, of communion, to create an experience, or to facilitate an experience that allows for our work, our moment together, to be deeper. Now, if I am walking downtown Toronto on a Friday night and there's just a lot of drunks all over the place and fights breaking out and somebody passed out vomiting in the street, that's not the place for me to just go into, oh, I want to feel one with everybody. That's, it. So what happens to some people is ayahuasca enhances, it opens channels of perception, of sensitivity, which is a gift. But if the person doesn't know how to manage it, it just becomes overwhelming. So at that place, then yeah, people benefit from closing those loops. It's like, well, nature gave you a gift you were not ready for, so you're bound to harm yourself with it, which is, the best things in life, if they come at the wrong time, they become the worst things. That's why so many lottery winners kill themselves or end up in a much worse place afterwards. Because you could say financial abundance will fix your life. Not really. If you're not ready for it, it'll destroy your relationships, your family. There's so many things that come with that. So same ayahuasca, it's like a lottery, a spiritual lottery. Most people think they want it, but they don't really know what it is they're asking for when they come to an experience like this.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people, they don't do the work prior. I hear that all the time. Like, I knew it became a problem when I heard, like, a friend of mine, he said, yeah, don't you want to come to Berlin? And they're doing ayahuasca ceremonies in Berlin. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, in the city. I'm like, what? In the city? So they're just in apartments, when they're building up, like, putting tents in the apartments. I'm like, yeah, this is insane. That's when I realized that it's becoming a problem, right? And
Hmm.
I mean, I had the opportunity back then when I was in Colombia. Like, I even knew someone that went, and I could have gone with him and proper shaman, the real deal. But I didn't feel like I needed it back then. I already had, like, enough respect and understanding of it, in my early 20s to say, okay, this is not it, right? It's not the time for me to.
Hmm.
And I'm happy that I didn't do it, because I don't think it's the way to go, just to do it because you have the opportunity to do it. Either it's a calling or it's not, right? And
Hmm.
that's the way it is. But have you done a dieta like yourself?
So yes, and the dietas, the way they're managed in Colombia, are, it's not like in Peru. The traditions are different. So
Mm,
unless you're doing something specific, they don't have you do a dieta with, let's say, with just one plant or one flower or whatnot. The dietas that we were invited to do were more around, I'll say, like self-discipline and certain asceticisms. So dieta of ejaculation,
mm,
of sex. Uh, I've done long dietas of around like food, just like around not eating anything derived from animals. I've done At some points I've done dietas where I'm very, very, very like, I won't eat outside. I will only eat meals that I've made, or my wife has made. I won't go into like public spaces, especially if like before a retreat or something important, or if I want to go deep with the medicine, then this would be like times of withdrawing from most social interactions, not touching people, not hugging anybody, avoiding that as much as possible, just to keep one's energies intact. I've done that type. Um, and extended fasts also, but not with specific plans.
mm. Okay. But, like, how do you think you keep the balance, between the mystic and that life that you live now? Because I feel it as well. Like, once you kind of clear up a lot, once you kind of peel that onion, let's say, it's super difficult to stay in a city. I
Yeah.
lived, as I mentioned before, I lived in Bogota, I lived in London, I lived in Barcelona, like all these places where there's like millions of people. And it was cool back then, but like I could never move back there. It's impossible for me to do it now.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
difficult.
that's why we're moving with my wife to back to Colombia.
Yeah.
We love Toronto, but it is to stay, to keep things clear. Being here, it takes
Mm.
it takes so much. It takes so many different things. From like, we have to pay for company to ship us spring water in these glass bottles. because otherwise the water is just, you're just drinking shit, you know. Um, the EMFs, we recently bought a little thing that measures all the electromagnetic and radio frequencies, and it's insane that there was the radio once, if we turn it on, it goes beyond what the counter can show. It's just beeping. It cannot show the number from how many there are.
Yeah.
So then we needed to invest into some devices that kind of lessen the impact of that on our body, grounding mats, all these things, all these circuits that we do to make up for living in the city. Now, the premise for me being here is, it's a city where there's a lot of people, a lot of things happening, and where a lot of people need the kind of work that we do. But I realize that more and more that that it's unsustainable. First, I find that especially the medicine has told me, like, if you want to go deeper in this path, you can't. You have to live in nature. Otherwise, I felt it. I come back from Colombia, and if I'm sensitive, I start feeling sick being in the city. It's hard to remain grounded. We live on the 17th floor, so that's just such a distance from nature and what it does to our system, to our health, to our mind. I find that even though I consider myself very disciplined around my daily practice, my yoga, I eat impeccably. I don't really eat sugar, processed foods. I'm very disciplined around those things. I'm a very happy person. In spite of all of that, it's, sometimes it feels like I'm on the edge of what I can handle. And I know that in nature, is I'm not just trying to fight against the survive. I'm not trying to survive and fight against the environment. Like, the environment is on my side. Nature is, we're all going the same direction. Versus in the city is like living consciously or numbing yourself enough so that you can make it through your time in the city, which for me is no longer an option, especially as I consider the idea of having children. I know for sure this is not where I'm going to raise them. So yeah, it's a fine line. One of my best friends here is an ER doctor, and when I told him I was moving, he's like, "Fuck, man! Like, everybody who kind of starts getting their shit together and could be of great use to the people in the city usually leaves the city." And I said, I get it, but I'm not gonna light myself on fire to keep others warm."
Definitely not. And that's not, it's not the right way of phrasing it, just because you understand what's going on and you can see what's going on, you're not supposed to be in the midst of it all the time. Just like you said, like, just maintenance is way too draining. Like, you're not even moving anywhere, you just to stay there, it's already costing you so much energy. And especially with kids, I have two sons, and like the older one was with us still in the city when he was born, and he just wouldn't sleep properly. Same thing, like
Mhm.
5G towers everywhere, like Wi-Fi. You can turn off your Wi-Fi as much as you want, and, but if there's like 10 flats around you, and then, like, what's the point, right? Like,
Yeah.
you have no control over the environment. So yeah, I get it. But so you said daily practice, so you do some yoga. What else does that look like?
Hmm. Yeah, Hatha yoga, well,
Okay.
Hatha and Kriya yoga. So it's a meditation, mantra, Kriya. Um, that's the core of it. It depends. There's some practices around that, but that's the main. And movement, like keeping my body like fit and strong.
Mm. Yes. Do you do martial arts?
No, not
Mm.
anymore. I used to. I did. I did some cage fighting back in my when I was 19, 20. I think
What- Yeah,
I needed an outlet for my anger, and I got it, and then I was done with it.
let's go there to these dark times a little bit if you want to talk about it. Like, what did that look like? What was Nico when it was close to your breaking point, to your lowest?
Oh, that was, I would say lowest was probably like mid to late 20s. That was I never thought of myself as an alcoholic or someone that had alcohol problems. I thought it was under control and just social, but like social 5 days a week is not really social. Or like not being able to work without drinking half or a bottle of white wine, that's not under control. I just thought, whatever, I'm enjoying my life. There's no problems. But I was blacking out constantly. Like I'll go out party and just wake up and not remember what happened, and just laugh at it, not see it for like what it is. That is, well, I'm damaging my brain, and I'm probably being an asshole, and I was destroying friendships and just being very unconscious. And of course, drinking was leading to drug use, which it just things slowly started to spiral for me. It was yeah, drugs, cocaine, MDMA, ecstasy, GHB. It was one of the worst ones, and it was all in the context of party and being with women. And but at one point, it was, if I was not high on something or drunk, I couldn't be intimate with a woman, or I couldn't really enjoy being out with people. And yeah, it all compounded after a bad breakup, or it was not a bad breakup, it was a painful one. I think one of the best things that has ever happened to me, also one of the most painful ones. But I started spiraling out of control, just drinking too much, taking too many drugs. I had a couple of overdoses. Fortunately, quote unquote, nothing really bad happened. And I had a friend that like took care of me and whatnot. It was not, I didn't end up in the hospital, but I blacked out and woke up hours later. Um, and yeah, just the amount of pain from that breakup and paired with the drugs. And around that time, I had just opened my tattoo studio, private tattoo studio in Toronto. So I went, like, I started earning in a month what I used to earn in a year before. So for me, that level of financial abundance was, it was great, open up the doors to so many things, but it was not something I was ready for. I was not mature enough. I was in too much pain to use that money properly. So it became I became self-destructive in unconscious ways. I thought I'm just living the life. I'm just sleeping around with women. I'm just partying. I'm just having a rich social life. And but really, like, no, I was just destroying my body and my health and my relationships. So yeah, one day I woke up hangover, depressed, angry about my ex, about myself, just feeling like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? And that's when I realized, you know what, I need to get out of this city. I'm being consumed. I had a roommate back then that was, she would have cocaine for breakfast. Like I'll wake up and she's making a line in the living room. So that was the vibe at home. And I realized, what's going on? How did I end up here? Because I was the nerd kid in school. I was the one that who I only listened to classical music, Beethoven, and like that's it. And suddenly I'm in this dark space. So that was rock bottom for me because yeah, I felt consumed. I felt addicted. I felt in pain. I felt that in my mind. I knew that it wasn't good for me, but I couldn't leave it. And that's when I flew back to Colombia. And around that time, I was invited to my first ayahuasca ceremony, to one of my first ayahuasca ceremonies, and that was when things started to shift. When I realized, you know what, I think it's a different way.
Nice. Did you already know back then that you wanted to work with it, or did that just develop like afterwards?
I had a feeling since I was very, very young, since I was 14 years old. The first time I heard the name, something in me just came online, and I was obsessed trying to understand what is it, can I do it? But my parents were religious, so I never managed to escape my Catholic house to attend the ceremony. But I wanted. If I could have, I would have done it. I just couldn't figure out how to leave my house, stay somewhere else, and not have my parents kill me. Um, yeah, so I always felt pulled, like very curious about mysticism or like what else there was to life. I find that that got kind of, not kind of, that drowned once I moved to Canada, because then all I cared for was women and money and just like hormones and status and being liked. So my spiritual inclinations got drowned by that over a few years, and I think pain uncovered that once again. And then when after I sat with the medicine, I realized, ooh, like this is what I was looking for all this time. This is like, this is my north.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of similarities. You know, the more people I talk to that have kind of like the similar path that you had, and I also had, the more I realize it's very much a certain type of person. You know, it's that person that doesn't fit in the beginning. That's for sure. You know, like you just said, you know, we were listening to classical music. I was also playing piano. You know, I was always on the sidelines of the group. I never fit in, and then you just start numbing yourself because you want to fit in, and the environment is so, yeah, let's say not fitting to your soul, probably, that you try to escape all the time, right? And then just consumes you, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know if that's needed for us. I mean, for me, it was probably definitely needed to get to this point, to have these experiences. But you know, a mentor back then could have maybe helped in a sense, right? To say, look, man, you're in the wrong place. Why don't you go somewhere where it's more easy on your whole being, right? Where you don't have to escape, where you don't have to numb your feelings and your aura and your whole being to just to fit in, and then you still don't fit in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting path. And was that around your Saturn return when this whole thing exploded, or was that, when was that?
Uh, what
You
was your
said,
question? Sorry.
do you know the Saturn return around 29? Like, is that, do you know that? It's like
Saturn return.
Saturn return. Yeah, it's from astrology. You know, it's like when in our male lives, you know, it's kind of when that second phase starts, right? Like it's that, and it usually, you know, ends with the big bang if we're not, if we're not clear on our path, and if we're in the wrong spot. That's kind of the recalibration, and it often happens, you know, with men around that age. With me, it was
Hmm.
exactly, I didn't know it at the time, but like, you know, then after I learned about it, it was exactly that year. And also a couple of people that I talked to. But yeah, was it 28, 29, or was that before,
Yeah, it
when
was around that time. It was, I think I was 27, 27, 28.
yeah, interesting. You know, it's all that stuff that aligns in the end. You have no idea, but yeah,
Hmm.
super cool. The, like, how's it with the people that, you know, you hang out with? Do you still have any friends, or is it kind of just the wife, the family, and like, how does that work?
Yeah, yeah. I have friends. Yeah,
Yeah.
good friends. Yeah, people who we share similar values with. I don't think I have. I don't think I keep any friends from the circle that I used to have before.
Mm.
Maybe like one or two people are distant friends from that life, but yeah, a lot of people that I used to connect with, they things just fell off right afterwards. Just so I wasn't partying anymore. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't going out. I wasn't hosting the pre-drinks or the after
Right.
parties.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, I even tried to hang out with some of these people in the last few years because I thought, why not? I used to like their company. Let's just connect and catch up. And yeah, sometimes it was. It just felt so. We just felt like we lived in different worlds. Some people that only cared about how they were seen and who they know and like status and whatnot. And I'm thinking, oh, I can't be bothered by this. I just don't care about this. I don't care about whom you know. Like I'm curious to talk to you, to chat. How's your life? Like tell me about you. What you love, what you fear, what excites you, what you're yeah, but I now found myself in these conversations with people that were more concerned with trying to be impressive, trying to be interesting versus being interested in the
Yeah.
connection. And for me, that's eventually I just realized I value my time way too much to, yeah, like I just realized, okay, I charge this much, if I gave my time an hourly rate, and I'm thinking I just spent this time talking with this person, would I have paid that? And I'm like, no, no fucking way. I'd rather be by myself with a close friend, with my wife, than wasting my life with, not wasting it. It gave me some discernment, but yeah. So I do have friends, way 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 smaller circle than I used to have before, but I love it. Yeah, very meaningful. I can be myself in all kinds of ways. I can celebrate my victories, and they are happy for me. I can share my struggles, and they don't judge.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how in our young years we try to fit in, we try to, get along with everyone, and now it's the contrary, right?
Hmm.
Just made that whole circle again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think about these similarities and these ways of these different phases in life, especially when you get kids, and like how do I talk about these topics? What do I want my child to learn from me, right? And like how much should I tell my child like how the world works, and how much should they find out by themselves and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's why I like to ask these questions, because it's super interesting to me, because I do think about these similarities and the past in that sense. It's not like I live in the past. It's just like I try to understand what happened, and how it translates into teaching and all that kind of
Hmm.
thing. And I what I found interesting was this one clip of yours where the shaman told you to have a nina, right? I don't know if you want to tell that story, because I quite liked it.
Yeah. So I think he was 109 or 110 years old at the time. His name was Taita Kerubin Keta, and he was, at the time, he was the authority of the ayahuasca. I mean, you cannot call it industry, but of the shamans in Colombia. He was the highest authority. Like there's a pope. He was like the pope of plant medicine, and a very respected elder by most tribes, and very powerful and whatnot. And he was 110, and he was still giving medicine. He was still serving medicine. Of course, he was pretty old, but he carried himself. He didn't have a cane. He didn't have glasses. He was like pretty vital. And I went to ceremony with him, and the day after the ceremony, he was doing like private consultations. So you could come spend some time with him, and some people, if they had health complications or whatever, he will like kind of like tune in and give them a remedy, or like do a healing session or whatnot, or some guidance. And I was, when I was going to chat with him, I was thinking about it, like what do I want to spend my time with him, like doing with him. And I thought first of all the different spiritual questions and mysteries of life that guy has probably explored and understands about human nature and shamanism. And he used to be a brujo, which is like a black magician, or like people don't believe in witchcraft, but in Colombia or in the jungles, it's a very real thing, and there's
Bruja,
people that die.
right?
So this guy, most of his life, he was at the beginning like just kind of leveraging occult practices for his benefit, and then he turned
Mm.
around. So here's a guy that knows darkness and also light, and as I'm thinking of what to ask him, I realized, actually, like, what do I need? And at the time, I was struggling with feeling sexual desire for other women, feeling a little bit compulsive in my sexual energy, Um, I had not crossed a line. I was not cheating on my partner, but in my mind, I felt like disorganized. I felt that I don't think I was watching porn anymore, but I remember like feeling the urges or this like brewing obsession with sex with women, and I felt that no matter how much ayahuasca I drank, no matter how many courses I took or whatnot, I just couldn't like find like how to get rid of it. That's what I wanted back then, because I felt this is the place where I feel out of integrity. So yeah, I came to him and we chat, and I say, he's like, okay, so what do you need? And I say, well, yeah, I feel a lot of compulsive sexual energy. I feel like I look at women, I objectify them, I go into fantasy, and I'm married, and I just yeah, I just feel like this is not good. I'm not. I feel like I'm being unfaithful, even if it's only happening in my mind. Like energetically, I feel that I'm not 100% in my relationship. And he looks at me, and he like he used to grab his ear, and I don't know, like I think like he used to connect, or sometimes when he was doing healing sessions, he would like tap a place in his ear and then close his eyes and start doing or chanting or doing his things. And he like listened, he grabs his ear, and he said, you should have a daughter. And I was like, what? And then he started laughing, and then he pointed between my legs, and he like, is it working? Because if it's not working, then we need to heal that first. And then he cracked laughing, and I was laughing too, because I was expecting this to be this super serious meeting with the elder, and the guy was just cracking jokes and being a bit obnoxious. And I thought this was, yeah, I just loved the simplicity, and how he was not. He could have, like, he had reasons to sit on a pedestal and be like, I know more than all of you, and he was just whatever, just another guy. Um, and then I left. We chatted a little bit more, and then I left. But I left a little confused, because I thought, okay, maybe, yeah, maybe I need to have a daughter, but what does it have to do with the other thing? And on one hand, I do believe that there's a lot that a man can heal in his relationship towards women by becoming a father, especially if he has a daughter. I think it must change something in us. Um, but for me, the way it landed, beyond that, which I also welcome, I'm open to the idea of children. But I realized, like, what having a daughter means, to me at least, is having someone that I love so much, for whom I want to be the best possible man, the best possible role model, that the idea of, I don't know, lasting after some online pictures that somebody posted in a bikini, it's just so far outside of the identity of the father I will be. So what I understood also is, I'm I'm trying to fight against my sex drive instead of channeling it. Like I'm trying to fight darkness out of her, like fist fight it outside of a room, instead of turning the light, which is create something that is a much greater use of your energy. Commit to something greater. For me, that was the deeper message. I I'm happy. I would love to have a daughter. I don't dismiss it. But the way that I see that I read beyond his words is that you can't. It's like you can't arrive to your destination by being fixated on the rear view mirror as you drive. You're bound to crash. And I realized, I've just been beating myself over how I'm not perfect, how I feel strong sexual drive, how I feel attracted towards other women. I've been I've been treating that as if it was a mistake in the design of my human body. For sure, there's some conditioning in there that is artificial, but beyond that, it's like, hey, what if instead of fighting against it, you just create something that inspires you so much and that you love so much, and that pulls you into being the kind of man that doesn't even think about these things, kind of man that is not even, that for whom that's not even a concern. So
Yeah.
that's real transformation. I see it. Another analogy for this is, as much as I appreciate the work that the 12 steps program do for addicts and alcoholics, the one part that I really don't like is where they say like you're an addict or you're an alcoholic for the rest of your life, even if you don't drink. To me, that it's like, no, no, no. I refuse to identify myself by my limitations. And above all, I feel healing means that we become someone whose identity is completely different from that, right? Like, I don't say I'm a recovering alcoholic or a recovering addict. I don't even think in those terms. I don't drink. I don't think about drugs. It's just I don't even care for it. The thought of it, like, you couldn't pay me to get drunk anymore. Just, but I don't think, oh, I quit addiction. No, I just, it's like that was another life. I'm a different person that just doesn't drink. That's it. I didn't quit anything. I just love my body. I love my family. I love the work that I do. I love my health. It's not that I'm forcing myself to control the demons of addiction. So in this, I realized, well, I was trying to control myself instead of recreate myself. Yeah, for me that was deep, because that was a missing piece of the puzzle in my journey of growth, because I thought, we need to dig out the trauma and the shadows and do the shadow work and grab those wounds and explore all of my childhood and see how I may be a slave of my conditioning and just break things apart and destroy all the untruths. It's like, cool, yeah, that's necessary. And then what? Eventually, like, all right, you free up all that energy that was stuck in those places. If you don't have simultaneously something worthy to place it into, you're just gonna find different vices, or you're just gonna be consumed by it or overwhelmed.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I just like, for me it was also, like the family that I was building, right? Like, I knew that I was going to become a father, and that was the ultimate catalyst. Like, I had so much pain prior to that. I had accidents, almost died, like broke plenty of bones, like all that kind of stuff. Nothing would change my lifestyle enough, right? It was all,
Hmm.
yeah, sure, why not? I mean, it's part of life, right? And then, just like you described, if you know, okay, you're going to be that role model, you really want to be that father. Is that how you want your kid to see you? It's a big north side, at least for me it was, and that was like the ultimate catalyst to start the growth process in a proper way, or the transformation even, right? Like, because it was, I mean, it started earlier, but that was the where we got that nice little curve.
Hmm.
Yeah. I just spoke to an addiction specialist. She's like super experienced clinician and psycho, yes, psychiatrist, and very deep in that space. And I didn't do the 12 steps. I didn't do, Alcoholics Anonymous, none of that. And the same reason I never did it was the one you mentioned, because I knew about it, and I kind of learned about it, and I said, okay, why would I give myself that label? Why would I remind every cell in my body all the time that I'm that old person? Like, it makes no sense to me. Words
Hmm.
as spells. As soon as you learn a little bit about, how the world works and how this realm works, like, why would you always reinforce this energy around you, right? You've moved away from it. It's like putting yourself back in that same environment that got you sick in the first place, right? Like, why would you go back there?
Yeah.
Absolutely makes no sense. And that's why, my program is, it works holistically, right? And like, nowhere in there will you hear, them like telling themselves that they're addicts. Like, it makes no sense. You have to understand in the beginning that you have a problem, right? If you want to call it
Hmm.
addiction, you can call it addiction, right? But it doesn't matter. But you're not gonna stay there and the months after that, and just put it on the wall and like say, hey, I'm Max, I'm an addict. Like, it doesn't even make any sense to me.
Hmm.
But yeah, so beautiful North Star. And then also what you said before, what I wanted to touch upon, the testosterone, right, that we carry. We have, like, I listened to a podcast recently. They were speaking about this, and I thought about it. And we have these different levels, right, and they have this huge range that is kind of healthy, right? Which was also quite interesting. Like, you find if you have 500 nanomole, and then you also find when you have 1,000, right? But like your whole perception of life is completely different if you're on that lower end or on that top end, right?
Hmm.
And of course you're gonna perceive everything that's out there in a different way, and of course you're gonna perceive women in a different way, where if you're low or high. But just like what you said, and that's so crucial, is how do you channel that energy? Do you have something that you work towards that's greater than yourself? I think for a lot of us men, I think that's important. And are you stuck in your 9 to 5? Are you stuck in your life? Are you keeping yourself small? Of course, you're gonna grab the internet, and we're gonna watch porn, or you're gonna indulge yourself in all these substances. And yeah, it's super super important to like at least be aware of this, right? Like,
Hmm.
yeah. Do you work with people on that as well, or like what's your usual kind of client? I would say.
Yeah.
Do you call them
So
client?
the people that I serve,
Yeah.
I'd say there's two groups. First is, of course, people that come to drink ayahuasca in Colombia. That's, and we have a filtering process, but we're looking to help people that are ready to turn their life around and committed and want to go deep, and they just want to fuck around for another decade, and have enough stability in their mind to go through that. Then yeah, we, in that regard, we've worked successfully with people that have alcohol addictions, drug addictions, sexual trauma, severe depression, anxiety. um, Many, we have successfully helped many that to recover from chronic health conditions, fibromyalgia, eating disorders. Anyway, so this is, I would say, this is more people who are in pain and they're ready to not be defined by their past and ready to not turn the page but write a different book. So the work that comes with ayahuasca is that, is like a line in the sand and then a new life, right? That's the Ayahuasca Colombia project that we have now. In my private practice, what I work with is people who, or especially the last 2 years, I've worked with leaders, conscious entrepreneurs, coaches, like people who are doing work to be of service to the world, but are playing a small game. They don't have the impact, the presence, the authority that they know they're capable of. They often maybe look around and maybe see big names in podcasts, and they think like, I know my shit better than this person. Why is that person having such a large movement, and why am I struggling getting clients, or why do I feel like I can't charge the prices that I know my work is worth? Why do I feel like an imposter even though I know my shit? How do I tell my story in a way that I can actually connect and impact the world? So this is more around an inside out approach to authority, influence, and above all, just self empowerment. That's so basically people looking to live with deeper integrity, like resolve their own wounds around not being good enough, about not wanting to take up space, about being afraid of really channeling their gifts, the gifts that they're here to give. Because a lot of people, let's say in the coaching industry, for example, a lot of people filter themselves so much because of what's profitable. So they turn themselves into, I'm a business coach. I help content creation. I help with this thing. And there's a lot of mystics hiding in their closet for fear of actually being fully themselves. So I help people recognize what that is, step deeper into that, and root themselves in a place of integrity and from there scale their impact, and then income as a side effect of that. But yeah, I will say like these are the two groups. So here we help everybody who's in pain and committed, and here we help. I work directly with people who are already helping others, but they are playing small and they know it, and they know that that's not how it's gonna keep on going. They're ready to lead from a different place.
Mm. Authenticity, right? It's
Hmm.
I mean, if you're authentic, the imposter is probably somewhere, cruising around you all the time, right? Maybe you give it more attention, maybe not, but like, the more you learn, the less you know. It's just the way it is, right? And at least,
Hmm.
for me, that's the way it is. And
Yeah.
the more
Oh,
I go into new realms, right? Like the more I see, okay, there's still more, and there's always more. And if you never start, you will never get anywhere, right? Because you can always learn more, and you can always do more, right? And it just never ends.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Beyond that, I'd say imposter syndrome is a bullshit idea that people came up with. If I have an imposter, if I have the voice that sabotages me, I can outsource my responsibility to this voice. And then this is the thing. This is my imposter syndrome. This is, like my addiction. This is my little monster I created through language that gets in the way of me serving the world. That's not true. Ownership is required to transform anything. Like the only reason that I can, if I could paint this yellow, is because I own it. If this was my neighbor's, I can't even wear it. I can't do what I want with it because it's somebody else's. What I disown owns me. But that which I own fully, I can do whatever the fuck I want with it. I could just burn this after our call and that's it. Why? Because I own it. It's mine. But if it's this syndrome, this thing that is not really mine, it's just somehow, I don't know, my parents, my society, my fear. I I, I have zero power over that. But if it's all right, what's imposter syndrome? It's nothing but self-referential thought process. That's all it is. It's I'm thinking about myself. That's it. It's not something. It's not a voice. It's not something to fix. It's I need to take a breath and come back to the people I'm here to serve. Because i- if I can help people and my attention is placed on how can I help them better, and I'm committed to doing that, and I'm good at doing that, and the world is such that more and more there's more people that need help in all kinds of ways, with their health, with their finances, with their relationships, with their spirituality. People are dying to be guided by people who know their shit. As long as my attention is on that, there's no imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome comes when I start thinking about myself. Ooh, how am I being perceived? Am I good enough? Ooh, maybe I'm not as good as this other person. Maybe I don't. It's like, you know me, that the insecurity comes from that place. So I find that what we need to fix is not like the way to heal that is like learning to direct our attention in a different way, learning to understand that this imposter syndrome is not a problem to be solved. It's the symptom of self-referential thought process, of thinking too much about myself. So it's the symptom. It's like the alarm is beeping. When there's a fire in my kitchen, if there's a lot of smoke, the alarm's gonna start beeping. I could waste my life trying to beat the alarm into submission, trying to do visualizations so that the alarm doesn't sound or whatnot. Or I could recognize the alarm is just beeping because there's a smoke coming, so let's tend to the fire. I feel like an imposter. That's not the problem. The problem is like, oh, I caught myself thinking too much about myself instead of the person in front of me. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautifully said. I think it's how we grow up, right? Like we're very much thought focused. We have to learn stuff by heart and books and one after the other, and then quickly forget, and then the next. right? I think that I would agree. The way to do it, to do any project is you have this goal in mind, you have this project, and reverse engineer. Okay, what do I need to know in order for the goal to be achieved? In order, to
Hmm.
help this person, like what do I need to learn? And then it will be practical, because then you will open up these pockets and you just slide that thought and you will slide that knowledge in there, and then you will get there super fast and it will just make sense. Otherwise, you will always
Hmm.
keep yourself in that loop. And especially people like me, with that ADD ADHD stamp, and got it in kindergarten, and then you carry it around with you. You don't fit in, right? Like you always need more input. Like your brain doesn't work like the other people's brains, and like all that shit. Like you will never get anywhere if you believe all these stories.
Hmm.
Yeah. And another topic I found interesting that you talked about is, the woman that you spend your time with, let's say your wife and God, and that if you cannot see God in your woman, then it's not the right relationship. I'm not sure if you phrase it that way, but like, you want to talk about that a bit, because I found that super interesting. And also from my experience, if it just was pleasing, visually, it just wouldn't last, right? Like
Hmm.
it's not
Yeah.
sustainable.
Yeah, that clip says that, like, for man that has not been able to find God through his woman, to go deep enough in his woman to find God, no woman will be enough. No amount of women will be enough. But for a man that has gone deep enough within himself and his beloved, that he gets to see God in his woman, he doesn't need any other woman. The point behind it is that if we understand that this moment is perfect and we are creators, co-creators of our reality, then the person that I have in front of me is the expression of God that I need to see in this moment. Meaning, doesn't mean that she has to be the one that I have to marry and give children to, and until I die, in spite of how abusive it may be. No, but the only way to, let's say, if it was something chaotic, the only way to actually graduate from that relationship is through deep involvement. It's like most people quit their relationship a little too early, and there's some other that just stay way, 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 way too long. And the difference is what they both have in common is that there was a lack of involvement. Because if you were fully in, the pain of what's not working will be so evident that very clearly you will realize, fuck, this is not for me. I love you, but to keep loving you, I need some distance. This is not going to work out. Because your heart will break so deeply if things are toxic or chaotic, and you're giving all of yourself, and you realize this relationship is not really improving. It will be heartbreaking to realize you've given all of yourself, all of your heart, and to see that things are not getting any better. But the heartbreak is what would inform you that, you know what, all right, like, I can live with dignity and with honor, and I can say, you know what, I give you my best. Most people don't get to that place because they're afraid of their heart breaking, so they are a little bit in, a little bit out, trying to fix the other person so that they may feel safe going deeper with them. Oh, if only my wife changes, then I'm going to commit to her. Then I'm going to really treat her as if I really loved her. Then I'm going to treat her like my wife. Now, just I want to play safe. What that what that leads to is my lack of involvement often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I've seen in my own relationship that when I've been hesitant, not fully in, looking outside, maybe I can do better. Maybe God has better women for me in store. Just I'm not showing up 100% in my relationship, and therefore I get a partner that in some way is mirroring that through her drama, through her chaos, through her insecurity, through the stuff that I want to get away from. But the solution is not to get away from it; it's for me to really commit to be 100% involved. And in that, I've seen miracles happen where, without a difficult conversation, my wife is a different woman because I'm there with her now. Like we're in it together. And if I realize that if I've gone deep enough within myself to find that God lives through me, then I get to see that also God living through her. So my wife is the way in which God loves me right now, and the ways in which I don't feel loved by her are also part in which are also an expression of how what something God wants me to learn about myself, about life, about love, perhaps. Um, and beyond that, if I see my wife as that, if I go beyond the face, the mask, the patterns, I'll always find that there's this constant stream of energy that is changing, like the seasons, like nature. And I realize that I'm like my wife is she's never the same woman twice. And what I need is not more variety. I need more sensitivity. A lot of people get that wrong. They get bored in their marriages. Oh, I need a different person because I don't feel love. I don't feel passion. It's like, well, sure, maybe, but maybe the invitation is for you to resensitize yourself. It's like I'm scrolling through Instagram the whole day and I am bored and I think I just need better entertainment. I just need to sniff a line, do some drugs, party, hook up with somebody on Tinder. Not really. Like what you need is less. You just need. 'Cause if you're sensitive, you could sit here, stare at a wall, and you have hours and hours of insights, of curiosity, of introspection, which is what happens to people with psychedelics. They can sit down and just look into a plant for 3 hours straight and just get so much from it. Why? Because we're sensitive, we're open to the moment, we're receiving the moment in a way that we never had before. So things that we just tune out from, that our mind just puts like, okay, that's a plant, so that's it, forget about it. Now we're with life, facing life like face to face. If we have that level of attention, that level of listening to life, to this moment, life will speak to us without a doubt. If I have the level of presence with my wife, God will speak through her in ways that serve me. Doesn't mean in ways that I will like, but it will be in ways that serve me. But that won't happen. That won't unlock through her, or I will miss it if I'm not if I don't have that capacity to be present, to have to create depth. Because from that depth, then there's so much that always comes that is new, that is fresh, that is different. Um, so for me, that's what that quote means. That's what I meant by that. And once I arrived to that place, I realized that whoever is in front of me is the creator in drag, in one of his hair shapes. So I don't need to change the shape of anything, because ultimately I started realizing that my experience is 100% internal, and you're just playing whatever role you need to play. So if I stand in that place, then what's happening outside, it's kind of irrelevant. Who I'm with, to a large degree, becomes irrelevant because my life is no longer a reaction to who and what happens outside, but I'm really connected to my creative power by virtue of my presence. Then suddenly it doesn't matter who I'm with. People are friendly, people are very generous. People want to include me on a lot of things that I don't think I have earned, but they just feel like, hey, Nico, come and join this thing. Um, that's the place that I'm coming from. And with my wife, same. Like if I come from pure presence as much as possible, she becomes a very different woman. Very different from the one she's been when I'm looking at my better options and the greener grasses and thinking, I don't deserve this, I deserve much better. Then life reassures that, yeah, you deserve better. You deserve better than drama. You deserve better than this. And suddenly it's just, until you've dated enough people that you find yourself the exact same place with the next person, enough times until you say, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to stop running away. It could have worked with the previous one. It can work with this one as well. The, it's me who's not working. So whatever, let's allow for life to bring me whoever I need to right now, and I'm going to commit to making something beautiful out of that. And it will happen as a result of that commitment, not as a result of that person being the perfect one.
Very nice. Yeah, it's such a good mirror. I mean, if you see it that way, I had a big lesson in my 20s, and I don't know if I yeah, the second one would not be possible. Like I needed to change after that. It was definitely needed. But yeah, I always say, like, if you meet a woman, for the ones that aren't in a meaningful relationship, just see how your nervous system responds. If she calms your nervous system, then you can invest in that relationship. If it's the opposite, very difficult to fix anything in that space, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Let's end it here, my friend. Thanks a lot for your time. And where can people find you if they want to link up with you and see what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you, Max. So Instagram at Nico Canon _ NICOCANON, or ayahuascacolombia.com for those interested in drinking medicine.